Hello everybody, welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, and today we are talking about the latest A24 film from Helena Rain, Bodies. Bodies. I loved it a lot. I always kind of got the feeling from the trailers that this was going to be made for me. I mean, for all who are uninformed, I'm a bit of an A24 shill. Like, yes, you look at me and you say, oh, that makes sense. And yes, it does. And I'm fine with that. I've accepted that part of me. But also looking at the cast, Amandla Stenberg, Maria Baklova, Rachel Sennott, those three alone. Plus you have Chase We Wonders, as well as Myha'la Herald, Lee Pace, Pete Davidson. This cast was made for me. Particularly Rachel Sennott, who absolutely crushed it. I mean, let's be honest. All of them crushed it in this film. This is one of my favorite ensembles of the year, if not my favorite ensemble of the year. All of them worked together so well. All of the character dynamics between each individual functioned so well, and I think part of that is down to the writing. The performances, the tension and friendships and the ups and downs, they all like mesh together and flow together, but all feel so uniquely like distinct from one another. It's just fantastic, especially with the hour and a half runtime. But Rachel Sennott, loved her in Shiva Baby. I would not shut up about Shiva Baby last year. It was a bit of a problem, but like in this film, Rachel Sennott, so perfect. She's so perfect. She captures the complete and utter narcissism and self-centeredness of Gen Z in a way that made me feel very attacked, while also weirdly like heartwarmed and attached to this character. She built an emotional bond to a person that I didn't like, while also seeing some of the worst parts of myself come out through that character. And that's honestly really just this film as a whole. It is probably the most biting and, for lack of a better word, perfect satire of Gen Z, my generation. The questions that it asks Gen Z about the narcissism and complete self-centeredness and want for a commodification and documenting of every single aspect of life, while also wanting meaningful and personal connections, and then becoming frustrated by those, and then using the narcissism and self-centeredness and then the documentary and the social media as an outlet to express those things, and the just complete downward cycle of all of that, while also fully acknowledging that, yet still doing it. That was a lot of words, but hopefully what I said kind of made sense. A lot of people within Gen Z, myself included, we have our flaws. And I think that this film just perfectly tackles them while not explicitly laughing at them. You're laughing with them, which I think is a really fine line to walk. It doesn't feel like the film was made to make fun of Gen Z. It was to laugh alongside Gen Z. It's just so smartly written, not only as a social satire, but also just as a horror film, taking this kind of play on the slasher genre and giving a kind of breath of fresh air and new take on it. It just completely and wholly works, especially with how elevated this is by the cast, which I cannot stress enough is just phenomenal. Just completely and utterly phenomenal. I don't want to really get into spoilers. I would highly encourage you go out and see this, but particularly a lot of the reveals towards the end and the twists and turns with all the characters. Like I said, this is a roller coaster that you're on alongside of these characters, and all of the ups and downs I think are accomplished so well. Almost every single character within this film has very deep flaws and problems, but I think that's also just human. Like, nobody's going to be perfect, and I think that it does a great job tackling all of those flaws and still making us like and feel attached to all of these characters despite all of their flaws, and seeing the humanity through them and not just the problems. And again, that comes down to the writing and the order in which we get to know all of these pieces of information about each character. And in the end, you aren't really supposed to like love any character and think that any character is like great, but you like them just enough to where you care about what they're doing within the function of the story. Horror is really split up into two sides for me. There's the more psychological side of horror, which is where you have Midsommar, The Witch, Get Out, Us. And then you also have the more, I would say, fun side of horror. And Bodies really does go straight up to the top of that alongside some of my other favorites like Jennifer's Body and Scream. This is just a film that I love a lot. As far as awards potential, Rachel Sennott, much like she should have been in the conversation for Shiva Baby for Best Actress, should be in the conversation for Best Supporting Actress here. Will it happen? No, sadly. Maybe at like some critics groups, maybe randomly. Sadly, this isn't going to happen. Hopefully we can see this show up at some of the, like, best horror film categories that, like, the Critics' Choice will do or something like that. It just sadly isn't going to be that big of a thing. I mean, this should be happening for Ensemble as well. It's, again, maybe with some critics groups. It just isn't going to happen on a higher level. The other thing is the song Hot Girl by Charlie XCX, which is great, and it should also be in the conversation. Will that happen? No, sadly, the Oscars are never going to go for that style of music, even though they should. Once again, maybe some smaller critics groups. This just isn't going to be a type of film that you're going to see show up at any of the larger ceremonies, but hopefully we can see it show up at some of the smaller, regional groups, stuff like that. But those are my thoughts on Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I'm going to be giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I just adored this movie. I cannot wait to watch it again. Please go out to the theaters and check it out. But thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.